So this is going to be the C5 project. So what started this project, which is going to be a complete C7 swap from bumper to bumper. I had bought the car in 2020. It was a cam only LS1 car. It dropped a valve, so I put a 408 stroker in. The 408 stroker caught on fire and it burned down the wiring harnesses. So I got a Holley Terminator X. I put the Holley Terminator X in, lost a ton of factory function. So I didn't know what kind of fuel economy I was getting. I didn't have fuel gauge. I didn't have all this kind of stuff that I like in a car. You know, something like you can drive every day and not be worried about, oh shit, am I going to run out of gas? So joked around with my friends about buying a C7, doing the C7 swap, and moving everything. Like I'm talking, if there's a module on the passenger side rear inside the fender, I'm going to mount it on the C5. So I'm going to pick this video up on us going to the Chevy dealership, getting some keys programmed for our C7 and getting it started. And then we'll go through a couple videos like of the processes of building some of the motor mounts, building transmission mounts, and stuff like that. The interior, all that stuff. So it'll be a multi-part series. If y'all want to follow along, then I'll be posting here as well as on TikTok. My TikTok is ZTruck1. So yeah, let's get busy on this project. We're up here to the Chevy dealership and we had to get some keys programmed. We were able to get the keys programmed. Now let's go ahead, see if she's gonna start. Like nothing even happened. Sounds kind of shitty. I think the mass airflow is not hooked up. Got a bunch of codes. Good oil pressure. Good battery voltage. No oil temp yet. It's in touring mode. There we go. The valves are working. It does go into gear and it does move, so get this thing back to the shop, get it tore down. So we got the C5 Cradle mounted to the C7 trans and diff. We're going to build a angle iron piece of aluminum and weld it onto the C5 Cradle. The C7 Cradle is too wide and too long on the bolt pattern there to fit. But surprisingly enough, the ball joints are the same for the C7 spindles, so we'll be able to use the C7 wheel speed sensors and parking brake, and then the C7 axles obviously fit in the C7 diff, but they also fit lengthwise on the C5 Cradle. So everything's looking like it's going to fit just fine inside the C5. So the C7 dry sump tank mounts perfectly on the frame there, just like the factory setup. And then the C7 ECU, just put some bolt holes on the back side of here, on the inside of where the fender goes. And then we put a little bracket there to hold it. Mounts perfect. It'll tuck right into the fender and fit just fine. All right, well, I kind of got busy and I forgot to keep taking videos, but we got the LT1 in. The headers are fitting. The pinch weld is kind of touching, so I may have to clearance that a little bit. Motor is leaning back right now because the torque tube is laying over there on the floor. I had to build custom motor mounts there because the C5 mount is a lot shorter from the block to the top of that green bushing there. So the oil pan was touching on the K-member, so I had to build these custom motor mounts out of some plate metal and get the motor up a little bit higher, but we're still clearing just fine. The coolant reservoir, I have this aluminum one that I've been running for a while. I had to make a cut out of it to clear the alternator. I'll plate that in and weld it up later. But with the motor in, the headers in and everything, the fuse box, which I'm going to mount right here off of the dry sump tank, fits just fine. The dry sump tank's fitting. The ECU is finally mounted to the inside of the fender. I got this new bumper. It's a C6, C5 style bumper. And then I just have these like electrical taped on there. The electronic steering rack is mounted. I built some mounts that bolt down to the cave member and then bolt onto the steering rack. That's super solid. The C5 radiator, it's the fans hit on the steering rack. So we're gonna have to see what we're gonna do there. I'm not sure if I want to run the C7 radiator, which leans to the front, or if I want to run the C5. The C5 would probably be better because where the intake comes off, it'll go up in front of the radiator and I won't be catching all that hot air going into the engine. So maybe I can get some low profile fans that'll clear both this ABS module and the steering rack. I still need to build a mount for that ABS module, but it's coming together. Then back here in the back, we have the 7-speed manual mounted. The 7-speed is in there. The sway bar is going to have to be dealt with because this tie rod end that we built here, this tie rod end is blocking where the sway bar can't hook up. So that's going to be a pain in the butt. Then I need to finish all my parking brake cables so the electronic parking brake works, and then get the torque tube shortened. So torque tube needs to be shortened about 1 3/4 inches, I believe. So they're going to shorten it on this end and shorten the shifter rod and everything. So it should be no issue there. Got a lot of the exterior stuff done with the C5, like on the underside and the engine and all that stuff. So right now we're going to bring in the C7. We're going to start doing all the interior and ripping that out, getting ready to put it in the C5. So we've been hard at work tonight. We got the C7 interior coming apart, got the dash pad out, most of the interior. Still need to pull the HVAC unit. We'll pull the seats out. I might try to use the C7 carpet because it's a little bit nicer than what the C5 comes with. But let's see. Some nice carbon diffuser there for this rear bumper. Let's check out this interior. The C7 dash honestly is fitting like super good. This is all going to get pushed up a little bit closer, maintain the gaps. But wow, that is looking really, really good. HVAC unit in, and I'm not sure if I should be mad at Chevy or happy with Chevy because they left the bolt patterns the same across the dash. This is in the C5, and honestly I think once I get the holes for the AC and the heater core through the firewall, and then I bet you this will literally just mount right back up to the factory holes. This looks like it's going to mount up to the factory holes still. I haven't cut that out yet, but we'll get there here in just a minute. It's looking really good. I'm honestly extremely surprised. Well, we got our hole on the firewall made out for the AC and heater core lines. Let's see. I was able to find out where I needed a hole made in the firewall to slide that bolt through. Then, crazy enough, in Chevy's infinite wisdom, they decided that the AC drain hole is in the same spot as the C5, and then we just did one mounting hole there, and we'll pull this tight and we'll see what it's looking like. Well, I've been thinking about it for a little bit, and I'm gonna hold off for a minute and see how I'm gonna mount that pedal box. I threw the column in there just to kind of see how things are gonna fit. I'm gonna go ahead and start wiring the rear of the car because everything from the dash back should be easy. I mean, the battery's gonna go down in that cubby. I'm gonna have to knock a hole here to go to a ground for the chassis. But other than that, just running wires. The speakers look like they're the same hole, so the speaker should just bolt right in. So we're gonna start working on that now. Alright, it's been a couple hours later. Got the C7 like completely gutted now. There's not hardly anything left in here. All the harnesses out. Now it's the time-consuming part of figuring out this rat's nest and putting it in the C5, getting everything laid out, getting everything secured, and then we can start working on putting the dash in and then plugging stuff in put a battery in it, turn the key on, see what turns on. Fighting with it for about 45 minutes. I finally got the steering column in. Now what I had to do to make that work was, that is the C5 pedal box. It will bolt up to the C7 dash crossbar, and then the C7 steering rack will also bolt up to that. The clutch pedal is also the C7 clutch pedal. The brake pedal I have not figured out yet. The bracket for the C7 clutch pedal is the exact same bolt pattern as the C5. So this is the C7 pedal box here. So that is all fitting now. The dash is partially wired in. All the wires ran through the car. Kind of just starting to plug stuff in, mount speakers, that sort of thing. But making some good progress to where we can bolt that dash in permanently. Here is the airbag mount for the C7. Same bolt pattern on the dash, and then I'm using the C7 crossbar, so that works just fine. So we got the C7 interior inside the C5. I'm pretty excited about that. So as you can see here, the C7 dash fits in here. There's a crossbar that goes across the bottom of the dash over, and it matches like each side together. It bolts down in the center. That piece is from the C7, and it bolts into the C5 chassis still. So that gave me all my lower mounting holes for the dash. So the dash is almost a complete bolt-in. Now, I do have some guys coming out to pull the windshield front and rear, because whenever we paint it, we're going to need those out. But I'm going to have them pull that out so I can mount my heads-up display unit and also bolt down the top of the dash. And then, yeah, so put the C7 carpet here in the passenger side footwell. May need to cut it a little bit to fit the trim pieces. And then this seat is bolted down. All the like power functions are working. I may cut down this plastic to kind of fit a little bit better, but we'll cross that bridge whenever we get there. But for part one of this video, this is going really, really well. Let me see if the battery's hooked up. Yeah, the battery's hooked up, so we'll hop in here real quick. Let's see. Let me swap the camera around. So here in the interior, if I hop in here, let's see. So I have the key. You can hear some stuff clicking over there. And then we'll put the key in here because I think the batteries are dead. And then press and hold to go into full power accessory. Boom, full power accessory. Everything's turning on. All the HVAC stuff is moving behind the dash. Our gauge cluster is working. Ignore all that. But everything is going to be working, which is badass. I'm super excited about this. Like, I mean, look, we're gonna have lap timers, oil temperature, tire temp. Let me see. Yeah, tire temperature, everything. And then we have our radio working, which I think if we go over here, let's see. I don't know who was listening to music in this thing last time, but yep, we got some speakers mounted. So these are the C7 speakers. I put some riv nuts and some 5mm bolts to hold those down. So we have both C7 speakers mounted on both sides. These door speakers are gonna be a pain in the ass. The door speaker on the C7 is like actually gigantic, so I'm gonna have to cut a big ass hole. There's not gonna be very much inner door left on this C5 door, but we'll cut a big ass hole, put those speakers in. Need to put our tweeters in up there and in the center. But man, this is really cool seeing this interior come together like this. I'm very, very happy. Everything's mounted. I don't think it's going through the drive modes right now because the ECU is not plugged in and the transmission harness isn't plugged in. I think that stuff may need to be in here for that to work. But other than that, this shit's coming out very nice. So I'm sitting here in the C7 or C5, and we're probably going to end the video here. We'll go on to like a part 2, and we are going to be painting the car. So this process is going to be pretty long. I was aiming for January to paint it, but with how fast the interior stuff's been going, maybe a lot sooner. So we'll have videos on that too, of us sanding the car down, doing all the body work to get all the body lines to match up, because you know we do have the different bumpers and stuff like that. If y'all have a color recommendation, let me know, because I'm kind of leaning towards ceramic matrix gray, like on the C7 ZR1 and the C8s and stuff like that. I appreciate y'all watching, and y'all tune in for part 2.